Okay, so here we are again, Hawks, and we've been able to write our chemical formulas for our ionic bonded compounds, right? So now how about we give them a name, right? And so let's figure out how do we name something? How do we give something a name, a chemical name, right? So naming ionic compounds. How are ionic compounds labeled and named? I will write the correct formula and scientific name for common ionically bonded compounds. Okay, so when you're making a chemical name, the first thing you want to do is you want to write the name of the cation. Okay, so the first thing you're going to do is write the name of the cation, follow that by the name of the anion. Okay, so basically the name of the metal followed by the name of the anion, so the non-metal. Okay, and then remove the ending on the anion. So remove the ending of the non-metal and replace it with IDE, ide. Okay, so here's an example. I have an aluminum and I have an oxygen. So there's aluminum ion and an oxygen ion. I'm going to write both of those names. Then I'm going to drop the last half of the name off of oxygen. So now it's just ox, right? Then I'm going to replace that with the letters IDE or ide. So now my name is aluminum oxide. Okay, so Al2O3 is called aluminum oxide. Okay, so what I did was I wrote down both names, aluminum and oxygen. I took the last part of the word oxygen off and I replaced it with the letters IDE, ide. Okay, put those two together and that's the name. Okay, notice there is a space here. For polyatomic compounds, you do exactly the same thing. The only difference is that you don't take the ending off, you just leave it. So Al is aluminum, SO4 is sulfate, right? So now I have aluminum sulfate, okay? If we're using transition metals, we're going to name the cation first, just like we normally do. So Pb is lead, but then we're going to use a Roman numeral to indicate what that ion number is, right? So in this case, it's lead 2, and then you name the ion. SO4 is sulfate. I know that it's lead 2 because SO4 is a -2 ion. And so since this is a -2, that means they both had to have been 2s. So this would have to have been a 2. So lead 2, that's the name of the ion, and then sulfate, which is the name of this ion. Okay, let's do some more examples. Okay, so I have Na2O. So Na is sodium and O is oxygen. So I'm going to take the YGEN off and make it an ide. So now I have sodium oxide. Okay. Fe2O3. Fe is iron. O is oxygen. Okay. The 3 that's right here is the ion number for the iron. Okay. And so we're going to write iron 3 oxide, right? So iron, Roman numeral 3, and then oxide. For this one, I have copper and I have chromate. Since there's a 1 that we don't write right here outside the parentheses, that 1 goes with the copper, okay? And so that copper becomes copper 1, and then chromate just stays the same, and it's just chromate. So I have copper 1 chromate. So now you should be able to write the names for the formulas of the ionic compounds that we're working with, okay? So you should be able to write the name if it's just 2 ions that are joined together. You should be able to write the name if it is a transition metal with an ion, or you should be able to write the name if it is a polyatomic ion in the ion bond.